Ah, Smart Water. Pure, crisp taste.
That's really good water.
It's the kind of water that says, I have my life together.
I do feel more sophisticated.
Smart Water. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
John Fund. You all know John Fund from Fox News. You know him from National Review. You know him for his many, many years at the Wall Street Journal editorial board. So, John, thanks so much for joining this afternoon.
Pleasure, Steve. Thank you.
Okay, so much to talk about, John. I mean, I want to talk about something I discussed earlier in the show in my opening monologue, which is school choice, which is something that is near and dear to my heart. I know it's near and dear to your heart. You've been a warrior for that issue for 30 or 40 years, as I have been, and we're starting to see a real breakthrough on school choice. So let's just start with that. I mean, now we have, 20? How many states do we have school choice in now, John?
Well, it depends how you define it. If you wanted to include charter schools, which are public schools that aren't run by strict rule books and are forced to have union employees, there are probably 30 or 35 states. If you want to talk about full school choice, which is that people, regardless of their income, have access to some of their tax dollars going back to them so they can pick the school of their choice, we're talking about 15 or 16 states. And it's growing, of course.
Yeah. So, John, what would you say are the leading states in the country on school choice? I presume they're the red states.
Unfortunately, yes. This has become a partisan, polarized issue, largely because the Democratic Party is so controlled by the teacher union. Something like 40% of the delegates of the Democratic National Convention are either teachers or the relatives of teachers who are members of the union.
Yeah.
So Texas and Florida are the two biggest states that have full school choice. Texas just happened this spring. Then you go to states that have almost complete school choice in the sense of there's almost no barriers allowing people to choose. That would be Arizona and West Virginia and states like that. I think that even charter schools, which have a toehold in most states, are making a difference because they provide competition. The real thing, Steve, is not just to provide an escape hatch for people fleeing bad schools or unsafe schools. The real story is that it forces the existing public schools, even if they're in the suburbs, or especially if in the suburbs, to get better. I mean, in Arizona, the complaints are that school choice is working too well. Public schools are having to advertise and convince people, no, don't leave us, because if you leave us, you're going to take away that $6,000 or $7,000 a year per pupil that we get from the state.
Yeah.
And in Florida, just now, it turns out that Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale and other districts that are considered very good public schools, they're seeing people flee, not because their public schools are bad, but simply because parents want more the variety and the choice and the innovation that the public schools can't provide. So it's something that will improve all public schools if it's implemented properly.
No, I could not agree more. And in fact, that's the most important point, John, of all. I mean, look, I think it should just be a human right that every parent should be able to send their kids where they want to. But it's also a truism that, at least for the next 10 years or so, 2/3 of parents are going to still send their kids to public schools. I mean, right now, I think it's about 80%. So you're still going to have important public schools. We have to make sure they're functioning. I'm from Chicago, John. You know this. You've covered this story. You've got dozens of schools in Chicago where virtually no one can even read or do math at grade level proficiency, which is like child abuse. We all know
what happens to people who can't read or write. They eventually turn to crime. Or hooliganism, and they basically prey on people, and they create unsafe cities and unsafe streets. Of
course. It's a vicious cycle. And meanwhile, I've been to many of these schools in Washington, D.C. and in Chicago and other cities where you have, parents with low-income backgrounds, mostly Hispanic and Black kids. And I watch what's going on in these schools. Sometimes they're only like the old one-room schoolhouses, John, these private schools. They don't have a whole lot of money, but they're really teaching the kids the basics that's not being taught. And by the way, they provide the kids with a safe environment. I think you had a story the other day that you told me about 40% of the schools in Philadelphia are not safe.
That's the official numbers. Who knows what the real numbers are?
Right. John, how can a teacher teach and a kid learn in an environment that's not safe?
Well, that is why the exodus that hasn't been covered enough, Steve, is it's not just students and parents who are fleeing the public schools. Many of the teachers are, because they can't. Right. They don't want to operate under these environments. Right.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. So this is a big story, and we will keep an eye on it. But I'm very excited, and the news stories show that you said it very well, John. That it's almost like a victim of its own success. Now, so many kids, first of all, they say, parents don't want to send their kids to these other schools. Now we're learning they sure do. And now the public schools are complaining too many kids are leaving.
Well, in addition, Steve, we're seeing innovation that we never thought possible. The pandemic convinced a lot of parents that they were not getting the proper education for their kids in the local public school. Many of them just came up with their own solution during the pandemic, because even some of the private schools were operating only partially. And they came up with these learning pods where 6 to 12 parents would get together and they'd hire a homeschool instructor who would help the kids through all their lessons, and they would contract with local public schools for things like band practice or debate or sports access to sports facilities. So they had the best of both worlds. They had the socialization that you want kids to have through a school where they know people of their own age, but they also have learning that the parents can have control over and confidence in, that they're learning the basics that you mentioned.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
Oh, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. Get more with Geico.
So I want to just very quickly change subjects. I'm talking to the great John Fund, who's, him from National Review, from the Wall Street Journal, from Fox News. John, you are also the world's expert to really change directions on gerrymandering. And in other words, covering gerrymandering. I don't like gerrymandering, but give our listeners, if you would, an update on what's going on in Texas and California.
Well, the most important thing that people need to know about gerrymandering is that both parties practice it.
That's right.
This is an equal opportunity sin.
Yes.
So the thing is, for a variety of reasons, both parties have reached rough parity in how many seats they gerrymander from the other. In other words, the reason why the House of Representatives is so close is neither party has an advantage nationwide. So there's some states that are egregious, but overall, it's basically in balance. Now, what happened in Texas is Texas has an unusual situation because two things happened. The census counted all the non-citizens in the state, and when they allocated the congressional districts, many of those districts are basically, half empty because we're so many non-citizens. These are people not eligible to vote. We shouldn't be counting non-citizens for the purpose of proportioning out how many members of Congress a state has. And secondly, the Census Bureau has admitted that they got things completely wrong in their survey of the country in 2020, that they shortchanged red states by at least 3 and Texas by probably 1 or 2 seats alone, and blue states like Rhode Island and New York were the beneficiaries. So Texas has seen enormous population growth, and they decided they're going to redistrict in the middle of the decade. Now, I'm sure a lot of that is for political reasons, and I'm not justifying that. Right. But that's what Texas has the right to do. California...
So, hold on. Before you get into California, I just want to clarify for my listeners, because some people don't follow this as closely as I do. So a new census cannot change the allocation of seats between states, right? But it could change, the districts. In other words, how does this work?
If you count non-citizens, what you're doing is you're giving some states more seats than they should have, and shortchanging other states. In addition, you're basically making, when the districts are drawn within the state, some urban districts with a lot of non-citizens are going to end up with far fewer actual registered voters and real citizens than neighboring districts that don't have as many non-citizens. So it skews things in both ways.
And so by the way, even the Census Bureau admits that they overcounted in New York and some other blue states.
Overcounted in those states and undercounted in states like Florida and Texas. Okay,
so quickly, what's going on in in California with your friend Gavin Newsom?
Yes, well, in California, the voters by over 65% passed the Independent Redistricting Commission because they were tired of all these gerrymanders in the past. Right. So the Independent Redistricting Commission drew the last set of lines. So Gavin Newsom is so intent on running for president and so proving to the base that he's the most anti-Trump figure in the country that he is having the legislature, without any hearings, without any transparency, override the Independent Citizens Commission, pass a new set of even more gerrymandered lines, and put it before the voters in November to ask them to approve it. And it's an outrageous violation of the voters' intent because the voters have said over and over again, we want an independent commission to draw them. I think the voters are going to reject him. But, in a special election with a skewed voter turnout, Gavin Newsom thinks he has a chance to pull this fast one over on us. I think it's going to be a titanic battle the next 3 months, and it's going to be a battle. Who does Gavin Newsom want? Does he want politicians who are his friends to pick their voters, or does he want the voters to pick their politicians? And I think it's pretty... I think it's pretty clear that Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to come out of retirement and lead the campaign against it because he was one of the original supporters of the Independent Commission idea.
So because this is a great explanation of what's going on, but I want to make sure the listener, because I keep hearing, they're trying to add more seats in the House of Representatives for the Republicans, but how would that happen? They would actually change the congressional district within the state?
Well, Texas is about to pass a new map, and it will advantage the Republicans. Okay. I'm sure a lot of the motivation is political, and it will increase the number of Republicans in the House of Representatives. The Democrats are trying to counter with that by redrawing California.
You can't make this. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's just this is not the way to do it.
Stuff up is wait till you see the lines that they draw in California. All right. I mean, they're already look bizarre.
That is a great analysis. Thanks for coming on. That's the great John Fund, folks, from National Review, from Wall Street Journal, from Fox News, and we will be right back. This is the More Money Show.